Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Foster, and this is Talk of the Town. We go around town, we talk to people, cover events, trying to focus on all the things that are positive in our town. And I think one of the most positive things we have, some people might know about, is the George Flynn concert series. It's just phenomenal entertainment. Our venue right now, we're in the Morgan School Auditorium, and I'll tell you, it's one of the best auditoriums that I've seen in the high school, especially around the country. And this is definitely a state of the arts. And of course, the person I think would be best to talk about the school, talk about the series, is the president of the George Flynn concert series, and that's Elaine Godowski. Elaine, welcome.
Thanks so much, Tom. It's a pleasure.
Great. Now, Elaine, let's start by talking about you. What's your background and what drew you to Clinton? That's what I always ask people, because this is sort of a special town, a special place.
Well, the New York Times. I was a born New Yorker, and when my husband and I were looking around to move out of the city because it was rather a dangerous place at the time, we checked the New York Times, and there was this lovely house on 16 acres of land, and we came up and looked at it and said, that's our house. We want that house. And that was in 1969.
Wow. Are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, tell me a little bit about your background. How you got involved in first of all, let's talk about you, and then let's talk about the series.
Okay. Well, my background is I went to Pratt Institute, which is an art school in Brooklyn, and that was what I taught school, art. And I was a window display artist, and I did photo shoots as well. Was a stylist for a photographer, and then I met my husband walking our dogs in Riverside Park. Yes, I lived on the Upper West Side, and when we decided to leave the city, he's a concert pianist. Wow. As well as a composer. And we got married after 5 weeks of knowing each other.
Wow. Talk about love at first sight, right?
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, our dogs kind of met, and they really loved each other. So great. We felt that, well, maybe there's some hope here. And
did you celebrate both marriages?
Yes. His background being from a family of musicians. He was the nephew of George and Ira Gershwin. Wow. His mother was George and Ira's sister, and I met Ira many times, and it was great. And his father was the co-inventor of Kodachrome film, so he was a chemist, but he was also an amateur violinist. And when we were in the city, we used to go to many, many concerts, and I've heard many great. I heard Horowitz, I heard Michelangelo, I've heard all these wonderful musicians. And so I've developed, and my background was more in the rock and roll. I was a jazz and rock and roll person, and being introduced to him, who was a classical pianist, and learning about the classics, that really brought my ear and tuned in my ear as to what's going on with music. Great. So that's how I came to be part of this series, actually, because I got a call in 1992 from Ernest Burnham Jr., who was an attorney in town here. He was also a state senator, as well as I believe he was first selectman as well.
I think he was, right?
Yeah, so he called me and he said, would you be interested in possibly being part of a foundation, a music foundation for Clinton, and that we will bring all these great musicians to town? I said, well, of course. I was 100%. So then what happened, George Flynn, who was the donor, died in 1997, and when his will was read, it was the fact that he wanted to have this $2 million that he left for the benefit of having classical music to the shoreline, to Clinton, but the shoreline as well. And what happened was, we first started this, which was 1998. The first concert was with the New Haven Symphony, and it was the Gershwin Concerto.
Wow.
And so it was the celebration of the 100th birthday of George Gershwin. And my husband played that concerto with Peter Ungen and the New Haven Symphony.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was our premier inaugural concert.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the series started back in 1998.
Yes. Well,
Now, what happened in 1992? You just said you were asked to participate.
yes. And then, George Flynn was still alive, so he was in a nursing home, and everything was still intact, and it just was something that people in his will, he left people that he wanted to. He knew of the people that was going to be part of this whole board, and they had to be Clinton residents. And we had Bill Cheney, who was the CEO of Tiffany. We had Jerry Silverstein, who was a teacher from New York, who lived in this town. He was in summer stock. He was a terrific actor, but he lived here for many, many years. And we had Ernie was part of it. And then we had William David Brown, who was an orchestrator, whom I had met because he orchestrated a Gershwin show called Crazy for You. So it was all, and we were all very symbiotic. We knew what we wanted to do, and the idea of doing classical music was so exciting. So this first concert was well attended. It was an outdoor concert.
Where was it, by the way?
It was at the old Morgan School outdoor field.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And there are pictures on our website.
Okay. We'll have to, I should all go and look at that website.
Yes, GeorgeFlynnClassicalConcerts.com. So we try to have the really wonderful artists as George Flynn wanted, because he was an amateur violinist.
Okay.
And he had married this woman, Irene Smythe, when I think she was 78 and he was 76.
Okay.
She came from a
Well-to-do.
She was well-to-do family. Her father, I guess, was a professor at Harvard.
Wow.
And she wanted to leave her money to Harvard. I shouldn't say this, but fortunately she passed away before he did.
We'll take it. We understand. We understand.
And so he decided, well, I really want to do this music foundation.
That's great.
Yes.
So the money, so it started with $2 million. It went into a trust. And then how was the trust to be distributed? First of all, you started, your first venue actually was the Morgan, actually out in the field, right?
Yes.
And then when did you actually progress into, you started this series, it actually started at Town Hall, or it started at the Morgan School inside?
Well, it depended on the artist.
Okay.
When we had actually the Emerson String Quartet. But the problem was that I think a lot of people they thought that classical music was long-haired and they couldn't relate to it and so on. So after a number of years, I just felt, with the rest of the board, that we have to expand.
Sure.
We have to not only have classical music, we have to have classical pops.
Yep.
We have to have classical jazz.
Sure.
So that was the venue, and that was the way we only had to use the Town Hall and the Morgan School. Those are the two venues that we decided, because it was a Clinton-based foundation.
Sure. Now, the Morgan School that we're sitting in right now, the auditorium, I mean, this is state of the art. I mean, I just can't believe this. Now, obviously in your career and having seen many venues, this has got to rank pretty well up there, right, in terms of the acoustics and in terms of the way it's set up and everything. I mean, how would you rate this?
Well, it's wonderful, but it's also a school auditorium.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have a green room, which would have been nice. It doesn't have flies where we could fly scenery.
Yeah.
So, but it's beautiful. You can see from everywhere, and many of the artists that we've had here have enjoyed being here. Ray Smith, who is a terrific music director here at school, he puts up a a curtain or what do they call it? A shell.
Okay.
He puts up a shell behind so that the sound stays and doesn't dissipate.
Right.
So, and as we saw on Sunday's
Beautiful.
concert,
Yeah.
yeah, it was beautiful.
It's really beautiful. Now, how do you decide? So you have this money sits in trust, and I'm assuming the trust is invested.
Yes.
And so, is there a limit on a budget? Do you set a budget each year as to how much you're going to withdraw from the trust? And do you have to plan out the events and say this is going to be XXX? I mean, how do you actually go through the budgeting process?
Well, we've been fortunate in having a very good investment partners. When you consider for 25 years, we have grown this $2 million. We've had more concerts for 25 years, and we have more money now than what we started with. And we pay very high prices for the different artists that we do have because they're world class.
Sure.
So they demand a high fee.
Yep.
So I try to balance it. If we have some really top-notch people who are going to cost a great deal of money, then maybe another group that would be more just up and coming.
Sure.
So balancing it. And but this year, since it's the 25th year, we decided to go all out, and we have 8 concerts of all fabulous, fabulous artists.
That's great. Now, how do you go about choosing the artists?
It varies. I usually look at what we had in the past, see what is available. Because of that it's been 25 years, many agents reach out to me and say, look, we've got this group, and so on. And I said, well, our audience would really probably enjoy this. And then some of the rest of the board makes certain suggestions. But basically, I do the choosing and picking and so on.
The heavy lifting.
The heavy lifting. I produce the whole thing. I mean, I
Wow.
get the concerts, get the sounds, get the engineers who has to be in here. We videotape for archival purposes, and so
That's great. Now, how many members are your board?
5.
Now, are they all musically inclined, or are they sort of a general makeup of different types?
Well, I think they all love music. We have actually the vice president is Jim Beloff, who is, I think he's the uke guy. He has brought the ukulele back into forefront.
Wow.
He has written many books on the ukulele. He used to work in Los Angeles for Billboard.
Wow.
And he is a performer himself, as well as he tours. He has done conferences, and he goes to Hawaii. He's met a lot of the ukulele people.
Well, Don Ho.
No, I think Jake Shimabukuro is more like it, who is we have had him perform for us a number of times. He's like the the classical venue of the classical person of the ukulele.
Wow. Well, Jim was going to join us today, but unfortunately he had some other obligations. But a shout out to Jim and all the great things he's doing and bringing back the ukulele. I love the ukulele.
Yes, yes.
Now, what about the performers? You say you decide, you look back over previous events and what was good and what was bad, and it's got to be quite a chore to figure out what's going to play to the best audience.
Yes.
And but you do that all yourself.
Yes.
That's incredible. Well, good for you. Well, that's because of your music background, your husband's musical background, growing up and knowing the Gershwins, and you got a lot of background there to help make the selection.
Yes, and as I said, people do make suggestions, and they say, well, what do you think about this group, and what do you think of, and certain groups I feel that would be really very much professional for out, because we really try to go with world-class people.
Sure.
In fact, the music director suggested a group with this woman, Grace Kelly, her name is, and yes, and coincidentally, and I saw her perform. He sent a video, and she was terrific.
Wow.
So we will see if that can work out for us and bring her here.
That was my other question. How do you pre-screen them? Do they have to submit a tape to you, or do you actually go see them live, or how do you go through that selection process?
Well, we see them live, but we also YouTube is a big thing these days, and they all have agents, and they all want to have their things on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So and the agents that they have their different segments on their website. So I take a look at that and see if it would really be for us.
Now, if you look back over this year, what seemed to have been your most popular show?
Gosh, I think maybe just Sunday's concert was really, because we have 670 seats in this auditorium, and it was practically full. Yes, and the concert we had before that was Canadian Brass, was also
I heard they were excellent.
very excellent, and also a full house. And then we had we started off, since it was 25 years, we started off with a pianist called Martin Garcia, who is a Spanish pianist, and in the celebration of George Flynn, who loved Chopin, we had a total Chopin concert, and just for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if people realize this, but I mean, I've come to a couple of these, and it is world class. And what people don't realize, it's free.
Yes.
Now, we talk about sometimes you're full, sometimes it's not, but you don't predicate, the price. It's the people that set the price, the entertainers.
Yes.
So it doesn't make any difference whether 10 people show up or 670 show up. It's going to be the same price as far as the payment to the actors.
Correct. And let me tell you this. When in George Flynn's will, he wanted to set this up. He sent a certain amount of money, but there was no indication that these concerts should be free.
Oh.
He didn't say that.
Okay.
The original board said, should we charge a nominal fee for these? Should we charge $10? Should we charge $25? Should we do this? So it was a consensus that we agreed, since the whole feeling of that it was a gift, that it should be a total gift, and that the concert should be free, and that's how it came about.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'll tell you, I just hope the people in town get out and really support this, because I was overwhelmed, especially in the last two that I went to, and it's really a credit to the town. It's a credit to you, and it's a credit to George Flynn. And tell me a little bit more about George Flynn and his benevolence.
Well, George Flynn was a Yankee who I guess he was a horticulturist. Yes, he developed certain strains of strawberries and rhododendrons. I mean, this is something that he had enjoyed doing in the past, and he lived a rather simple life. He owned the property along with his brother where the Clinton Country Club is, and he sold that to make the Clinton Country Club. His house, his original house, is still standing on that corner, and one of our latest board members is Megan Stein, who is his grand niece.
Oh.
So she is now on the board, and she has completely redone his house because it didn't have any indoor plumbing.
Wow.
Yes, and it was, it's a unique personality.
Well, how do you accumulate his wealth? To be able to donate that much money.
Well, I think that from the sale of the property to the Clinton Country Club, and also, as I mentioned before, his wife was very well connected with a father who was a professor at Harvard. So she is the one who had a lot of money.
Okay, interesting. Now, besides donation to the school, I mean the arts, is there anything else that George has done with his, as a legacy for himself, other than the concert series, which in and of itself is an amazing legacy?
I don't believe so.
So this is something everybody, this is You know, it's interesting, Elaine. We have so many nice things like this happening in town. And a lot of people don't know about it.
Yes.
And I think it's things like this that really bring out the best in people. You know, and George Flynn was obviously an example of that, somebody who appreciated the town, appreciated the arts, and appreciated being able to help other people, not through to help, but through. And I think, you know, when you laugh and when you get involved in programs like this, it makes you feel better.
Yes.
I mean, I felt great the other night. And so it makes people feel good. And I think that's what community is all about. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. And it's actually a high. People come out of here and they're just like, oh my God, that was the best concert. But they say that for every single concert.
Maybe that's all you hear.
That was the best concert.
And it seems like you really enjoy it because I know you came, but you introduce all the acts, and well, which rightly you should, having done all this stuff and all this hard work, and it must give you a real sense of gratification. Like when you stood up here the other night and you looked out at a full house, you said, "Wow!" And you looked up, George. I think you'd enjoy this.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to give you a real sense of self-fulfillment.
Oh, totally. I totally agree with you. I mean, and you know, this is a voluntary commitment. I don't get paid, and no one on the board does. Although sometimes I really think, well, I really should get paid because I work so hard on this for many, many hours.
Well, I'm sure that if they haven't said it to you before, the town really, gives you a debt of gratitude. And thank you so much for all you're doing, Elaine, and your board. And maybe you might want to mention who your board members are so they can get a little credit as well.
Of course. Well, there's Jim Beloff, who is our vice president. Then there's Mary Kelly Smith, Mary Kelly Bush, who is our treasurer. And then there is Alan Mann, who actually runs the Opera Theater of Connecticut. Wow. And he's been doing that in Clinton for about 40 years. So he's very well established with music. And then there's Megan Stein, who is a media expert. She works in our media.
That's great. Now, as you look at the camera, what do you want people to know about the George Flynn Concert Series and why they should participate? When you look in the camera and tell them.
Yes, well, when you look at our brochure, it actually has a letter about how we came about, and it has also a little pledge there in saying that we are a Giving to Grow a foundation as well. And the Giving to Grow is something that people have been taking on. So because there are a lot of people who make donations, many people who sponsor concerts for us, and that helps us out as well. So we have, and people are so generous. I mean, it doesn't matter what they contribute. Their name goes in the program, and they're very happy to be part of it. They're totally thrilled.
Sure. So if somebody wants to participate, somebody wants to donate, to make this even better than it already is, then how do they go about doing it?
Well, we have a website. We also have a P.O. box. They can always write to us and contact us that way.
So if you want to say again, what's the website?
The website is GeorgeFlynnClassicalConcerts.com. And they will see our entire programming and when you can order tickets. That's another thing that we decided to do. Since it's a Clinton-based foundation, we decided to have people from Clinton order tickets 1 month before. And then people who are out-of-towners can order tickets 2 weeks before. And that gives people a really good opportunity.
Now, if you get a good act and everybody wants to go, at what point do you cut off the number of people?
Yes, the website will automatically do that, okay. But people do have a cancel, and you can cancel it online, and sometimes people forget to cancel. So we have a list at the door when it's the concert time, and we make that list, and we try very hard to get people seated. I don't think there's any other time that we've had a problem with getting people seated.
Is there any limit on how many tickets a person can order?
4.
4. That's the maximum.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing is, would you look at the upcoming shows? What are some of the upcoming shows we have to look forward to?
On December 11th, we will have a holiday concert, and that'll have many of the great, holiday songs and so on. And so that'll be here. And then in February, we'll have the Yale Symphony, and they'll be doing the Rite of Spring, Stravinsky. And then the school has a certain time when we can't have the concerts here because they have their own programs. So usually that is from March to June. So in April, we are having at the town hall, which is a lovely hall of 450 people. We're going to be having a world-class pianist called Jeremy Denk. And Jeremy Denk is a soloist as well as a accompanist. He performed for us with Joshua Bell. Now, Joshua Bell is one of the world-class violinists in the world. In the world.
Oh, wow. Is he going to, so the soloist will be by, the pianist will be by himself?
Yes, he will just be himself. Okay. And after that, that will be in April, and May will be the Emerson String Quartet. Now, the Emerson String Quartet has performed for 40 years, and this is their swan song.
Oh, really?
They are disbanding, and so they will be performing for us one of our the last concerts that they perform.
Oh, wow. So I hope everybody gets out and supports it.
Oh, yes. And again, that'll be at the town hall. Yeah, but just all that information is on the website.
Okay. Yep. Now, so just so people understand, so the next concert is going to be December 11th,
yes.
Correct? And so the earliest they'll be able to start getting tickets will be November 11th, is that correct?
Correct.
So if you're interested, like I said, this is a great venue, Morgan School. It's I mean, especially when you can compare it to high school auditoriums, this ranks pretty well up there. And so we encourage you to participate, get out, and it's a gem, it's a hidden gem, and a lot of thanks to George Flynn and his foresight, wanting to provide this gift to the community. So take advantage of that gift. Take advantage of all the hard work that Elaine and her groups do, because she's a hard worker, as you can readily ascertain. You're working hard than most CEOs in the company, Elaine. So you're definitely due a debt of gratitude. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate you taking the time for this. I hope that it continues to be very successful, which I'm sure it will be with your leadership and your board's leadership. And we look forward to come out, and especially for the holiday. I mean, you want to start the holidays with a high note, and what a best way to do it than come here, enjoy family, enjoy community, enjoy some great entertainment. So again, I want to thank you very much, Elaine. Any last comments that you want to make before we leave?
No, well, right now I'm working on the next season.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and thank you again for continuing to bring us great entertainment right here in the town of Clinton. And as I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great town, some great hidden talent, and this isn't hidden. This is here. Just take advantage of it. So again, I thank Elaine Godowski. I thank all of you for watching. I want to thank my editor, director, producer behind the camera, Iris Dunham. She does all these events with me. We really appreciate what she's doing for the town as well. And if you have any ideas, any comments, any questions, let us know. You can reach us at iris.dunham at clintonpublic.net, and let her know. Do you like these things? Are you enjoying them? If there are any events you'd like us to cover, we'd be happy to try to get out and cover it for you. So this is Tom Foster along with Elaine Godowski and Iris Dunham. Thank you for watching tonight's show. We look forward to seeing you on another upcoming show. Good night, everyone.